Hello friends, I am glad to see you again. Today I will talk about the housing association that calls very late, at a time when it shouldn't. I woke up at 4:13 a.m. on the dot, the numbers glowing toxic green on the old LED clock I keep next to the bed so I don't burn cell phone light into my eyes at night. The phone in the kitchen was ringing. Landline, yeah, I still have one because out here in the hills, cell reception drifts like tumbleweed. Nobody with good news calls a landline before sunrise unless a calf is breech or a well pump died. I shuffled across creaky floorboards, picked up and tried to keep the sleep sand out of my voice. "Good morning, sunshine," a chorus of voices cackled through the receiver, pitchy and echoing like they'd put me on speaker. "Just wanted to wish you a delightful day from your friendly homeowners association." Click. I hung up without a word, mostly because my brain was still slogging through fog, and partly because if I spoke, I'd have barked something a 12-year-old shouldn't hear, but the adrenaline lit me up faster than any coffee. I knew exactly who it was, the HOA board from the subdivision that butts against my south pasture, the same board I'd told, in writing and in person, that their members couldn't keep using the dirt lane that cuts across my barley field as a shortcut to the highway exit. 2 weeks earlier, I'd stapled no trespass signs along the fence and patched the ruts their SUVs carved after spring rain. I'd even driven my tractor to their monthly meeting and, as politely as possible, laid out the simple facts. I pay taxes on that land, liability is on me if someone gets hurt, and the lane is not, under any stretch of a MapQuest imagination, a public road. They'd smiled, nodded, promised to discuss internally. Then nothing changed until now when they thought a dawn crank call was cute. I stood in darkness, knuckles white around the receiver, listening to the dial tone. Outside the window, the barn lights cast a rectangle across the yard. My healer, Diesel, paced by the back door, sensing my mood. I grabbed a notepad, wrote 4:13 a.m. prank call, suspected HOA board, and slid it into the folder where I'd been collecting evidence. If they wanted to play games, great. I'm stubborn for a living. You don't survive farming if you fold on the first bad season. The subdivision, Cypress Glade, sprouted 5 years ago when a developer bought an old dairy next to me, scraped it clean, and slapped up 50 cookie-cutter houses with 3-car garages. The folks who moved in weren't awful. Some bought eggs from my roadside fridge, some waved when I drove by, but the HOA board fancied themselves tiny royals. Their president, Wally, a retired dentist with mirrored sunglasses permanently perched on his shiny forehead, treated the declarations like scripture. His lieutenant, Loretta, my next-door but one neighbor, embraced her role as the enforcer of petty edicts. Holiday wreath diameter, acceptable mailbox hues, grass height measured to the half-inch. Loretta's thing was time. She refused to wait at the one traffic light in town. The county-maintained route out of Cypress Glade loops an extra half-mile before hitting the highway. So she, and soon, a merry band of copycats started cutting through my place. The dirt lane used to be my grandfather's tractor access. It branches off the county road, crosses my barley, skirts the pond, and reconnects near the highway on-ramp. For a combine, it's perfect. For commuter traffic, it's trespassing. The first time I caught Loretta creeping along the lane, I flagged her down. She rolled down the window of her pearl-white crossover and gave me a toothpaste commercial smile. "Oh, I thought this was a public farm road." "It's not," I told her. "It's private. Please turn around." She sighed dramatically, reversed, and spewed gravel against my trailer as she left. 2 days later, I saw her again, this time leading a convoy of 3 SUVs. That's when I hammered up the no trespass signs and sent a certified letter to the HOA. I figured that would be the end. Silly me. After the 4:13 call, I couldn't get back to sleep, so I brewed coffee and scrolled the security footage on my laptop. I had mounted a game camera on the lane just out of curiosity. At 4:05 a.m., a single pair of headlights crawled down the lane, Loretta's plates clear as daylight in the infrared flash. Then, headlights turned off, crept back toward the subdivision. 8 minutes later, the phone rang. Cute. I saved the clip to a thumb drive. At 7, after feeding the horses, I drove to the sheriff's office. Deputy Givens, who's changed my flat tires more times than I'd admit, watched the clip, leaned back, and exhaled slowly. "You've got them on criminal trespass," he said. "We can issue citations, but you know how it goes. Misdemeanor, maybe a fine." "I don't mind them paying fines," I said. "I mind being a doormat." He rubbed his jaw. "You can file for an injunction. Civil court's slower, but a judge can hit them with contempt if they keep it up. Meanwhile, post more signs. Maybe a gate. A gate! It felt drastic, but I nodded. The lane connected two busy roads. Closing it would tick off a lot of lazy commuters. Yet the law was on my side. Private property means private. The next day, I ordered a 20-foot tubular steel gate and 4 concrete posts. The farm supply guys delivered it by lunchtime, shaking their heads when I explained why. City folks buy next to farms for the view, then try to make them suburbs, one muttered. Installing the gate took 2 days. I set the posts 3 feet deep, poured concrete, welded a cross brace, and bolted a heavy chain and lock. While the concrete cured, I parked my flatbed across the lane. Loretta came by that afternoon, braked hard, then laid on the horn. I walked over, wiping sweat. "It's illegal to block a county road," she shouted through her cracked window. "Good thing this ain't a county road," I replied, pointing at the bright red sign. "Private property. No through traffic." She revved her engine, backed up in a cloud of dust, and peeled out. Diesel, ever the cattle dog, chased the dust plume halfway down the fence line. That evening, Wally left a voicemail so syrupy I swear I got a cavity listening. "We're concerned your new barricade may impede emergency vehicles. The association insists you provide unfettered access for public safety. Perhaps we can chat." I didn't call back. Instead, I filed for an injunction at the courthouse. The clerk, Miss Cabrera, stamped the paperwork and told me the hearing would be in 4 weeks. "Bring your videos," she advised. Judges like pictures. 4 weeks felt like forever. The next Monday at precisely 4:13 a.m., the phone rang again. This time I let the answering machine pick up. Same cackling chorus. "Hope the rooster wakes you up." I unplugged the phone, called the carrier, and had the number traced. Cypress Glade HOA office line. No surprise. I added harassment to the injunction request. Loretta escalated. Unable to drive through, she began parking right up against my new gate during evening rush, blocking me from using my own lane to move hay bales between fields. Twice I had to unhitch the trailer, squeeze around her bumper, hitch again on the other side. I documented everything. One Wednesday, a sheriff's cruiser pulled into my yard. Deputy Givens followed me to the barn. "Had a call," he said, embarrassment tinting his cheeks. "Anonymous complaint about animal cruelty. Said your cattle looked malnourished." I almost laughed. "My herd grazes belly-high alfalfa and looks like glossy parade floats." Givens inspected the stock, patted a steer, and sighed. "Sorry. Clearly bogus." "Let me guess the caller's address," I said. He shook his head. "They used a burner, but you're probably right. Harassment, false report, trespass, my folder grew thicker than a seed catalog." Meanwhile, a separate drama unfolded. The county announced plans to widen the main road by the subdivision, but only if right-of-way could be acquired. Some homeowners resisted. Rumors flew. Property values, noise, taxes. Wally spearheaded opposition, holding lawn chair rallies near the model home. Loretta circulated petitions. I watched from my side of the fence, amused. They didn't realize the county's Plan B was to reroute traffic along an existing easement on the far side, right through Cypress Glade's prized Rose Park, if they couldn't get cooperation. One evening, Stan, a Cypress Glade resident who buys my honey, stopped by. "Not all of us are crazy," he said, handing me a jar of homemade salsa as peace offering. He tipped me off that the board planned something to teach you a lesson. I raised an eyebrow. "More prank calls, maybe at 2 a.m. this time?" He shook his head. "They want to stage a community hayride down your lane during the fall festival. Claim it's a historic route open to the public. They think if enough families use it at once, you'll back off." I laughed so hard I spilled salsa on my boots. "They're welcome to try. I'll have deputies waiting." But the hayride threat crystallized a new worry. Children. If kids piled onto wagons pulled by some volunteer's tractor, on my property, without permission, and someone fell, I'd be legally liable, even if I'd done everything to warn them off. Trespass doesn't erase duty of care toward minors. The law's weird that way. Time to get proactive. I called my attorney, Raj Patel, a no-nonsense guy who grew up on an almond farm before law school. He drafted a cease and desist letter that danced right to the edge of legal intimidation without tipping over. Then he helped me file a notice of intent to sue for harassment and trespass. We served the HOA board members individually. Signature required. Loretta refused at first, then tore the envelope and threw pieces at the process server. That reaction alone would play great in front of a judge. The morning after service, I found tire tracks in my barley. Someone had veered off the lane, probably in anger, leaving a muddy S-curve and snapping irrigation risers. Diesel sniffed the ground, hackles up. I followed the tracks to the fence. The lock on the new gate was cut clean through. I photographed the damage, retrieved the cut padlock, and again scrolled camera footage. There she was, Loretta's pearl white crossover at 11:47 p.m. Headlights off, nose deforming my barley. I forwarded the clip to Deputy Givens and Raj. Raj called within 10 minutes. That's felony property damage. She's cooked. By noon, Givens arrested Loretta at her manicure appointment, handcuffs jangling over the smell of acetone. The news spread like wildfire. Small towns have no secrets. Cypress Glade's social feed imploded with debates. Team Loretta claimed I provoked her. Team Common Sense said trespass means trespass. Loretta bonded out, but the judge slapped a restraining order on her. 50 yards from my property line, no exceptions. Wally, sensing a PR disaster, dialed down the rhetoric and called me, voice trembling with forced calm. Perhaps we can find a mutually beneficial compromise, he offered. Funny, I said. That's exactly what I asked for 3 months ago. Let's not dwell on the past, he wheedled. We'd like to propose a formal easement across your lane, fair market price. Not interested. Name your terms. I paused. I already had a plan cooking. Lease of a narrow strip to a solar company that would fence the lane and install panels. Clean energy plus an extra revenue stream. But negotiations with the company were still private. Wally didn't need to know. My terms are simple, I told him. Stay off my land. He sighed theatrically. We'll see you in court. Looking forward to it. Court day approached like harvest, inevitable, exhausting, yet oddly satisfying when done right. I spent evenings organizing videos, photographs, phone logs. Raj coached me. We rehearsed testimony at my kitchen table, coffee mugs lining up like jury members. 3 days before the hearing, an envelope arrived. Cypress Glade HOA versus me, seeking an easement by necessity. Their claim, the county road widening would block safe egress, making my lane essential to their homeowners' welfare. Raj smirked. Easement by necessity applies when a property is landlocked. They have 2 paved streets. This is a Hail Mary. We prepped harder. The night before the hearing, 4:13 a.m. came and went without a call. Maybe they'd finally grown up, or maybe they were too busy drafting last-minute motions. I lay in bed, wide awake, thinking through the saga. An absurd escalation from a simple request to respect boundary lines. Diesel snored at my feet. I vowed, silently, that however the judge ruled, I'd make sure consequences landed where they belonged. That was when headlights swept my ceiling. I sprang up, looked out the window, and saw not Loretta's crossover, but Wally's sedan, idling at my gate. The driver's door opened. Wally stepped out, glanced around, and approached the padlock, a glint of metal in his hand, bolt cutters. My stomach knotted. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and quietly opened the porch door. The night air smelled of alfalfa and tension. Wally snapped the lock, swung the gate wide, then jogged back to his car. I slipped behind a locust tree and filmed as his sedan eased onto the lane. Then things went sideways. Halfway down the lane, his headlights illuminated something unexpected. A pair of reflective hazard cones I'd placed beside a trench where I was repairing drainage. He braked too late, front wheels dropping into mud up to the axles. The sedan's frame clanged, horn blared, and Wally's shout echoed across the barley. I walked up, phone still recording. "Evening, Wally." He froze, hands on the steering wheel. "Call a tow," he demanded, voice cracking. "Tow companies charge extra for trespass recovery," I said. "Also, the sheriff might want a word about that lock." He hammered the horn again, spooked birds lifting from the pond. "You set a trap." "No trap," I said. "Cones, reflective tape, clearly visible. You ignored them, and my gate." Sirens cut the darkness. Deputy Givens arrived, shaking his head before he even stepped out of the cruiser. "Doc, what'd you do now?" I handed him my phone. "Everything's recorded." Wally ended up in the back of the cruiser, sedan still mired. The tow company came at dawn, dragging the car out like a fish on a line. Meanwhile, word spread. By breakfast, half the town knew the dentist with mirrored shades spent the night in county lockup, wearing ankle-deep mud. The hearing that afternoon was almost anticlimactic. Raj presented videos of Loretta, phone logs of prank calls, photos of Wally with bolt cutters, invoices for damaged barley and irrigation. The HOA's attorney looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Judge Hancock, a gruff woman who once fined her own nephew for contempt, flipped through evidence and raised her eyebrows so high they practically left her forehead. "The defendants seek an easement?" she said, incredulous. After this, she slammed the file shut. "Request denied. Injunction granted." Plaintiffs are hereby prohibited from entering the petitioner's property for any reason. Any violation will result in immediate contempt charges and fines of $5,000 per occurrence." She paused, glaring over her glasses. Additionally, the court awards damages to the petitioner in the amount of $38,000 for crop loss and harassment. The gavel fell. I exhaled a month's worth of stress. Outside, Raj smiled. "We won. Now we wait for them to accept reality." I nodded, but part of me knew some folks learn only the hard way. A restraining order is ink on paper. Stubbornness is etched deeper. Loretta's crossover hadn't been seen near my fence since her arrest. Wally, out on bail and sporting a neck brace like a Broadway prop, avoided eye contact when we passed in the courthouse corridor. But Cypress Glade still had dozens of residents who considered my lane their birthright. I could lock a gate. They could cut it. Something more permanent needed to happen. 2 weeks later it did, but not the way anyone expected. If there's one truth of farming, it's that nature hates empty ground. Leave soil bare and something will fill it. Grass, weeds, sometimes opportunity. The morning after the injunction, opportunity arrived in a dusty blue pickup with magnetic logos that read, "Sunforge Energy Solutions." The driver was Violet. Yes, Violet, which she insisted was her real first name. An engineer with a handshake that could crack pecans. She'd left 3 voicemails over the summer about leasing a strip of my south pasture for a community-scale solar array. With all the HOA fireworks, I'd kept her at arm's length. Now, looking at my freshly bolted gate and the empty lane beside it, her idea felt like rain after drought. Violet walked the property with a laser rangefinder, punching numbers into a tablet. We'd fence the panels, pour a gravel access road along your old lane, put in a keycard gate. You'd still own the land. We'd lease surface rights, 25-year term, payments quarterly. She named a figure that made me whistle low. "Any chance you can start before winter?" I asked. She glanced at the sky as if measuring daylight left in the year. "Permitting's baked in fast track if you've got county endorsement. And I happen to know the county likes green projects that offset road expansion carbon." She smiled, a fox who'd sniffed a rabbit warren. By week's end, we had a signed letter of intent. The timing was sweet because the county commissioners had just scheduled a public hearing on the road widening, Cypress Glade's big crusade. Violet would present her solar project the same night. If the subdivision blocked the highway spur, the county could tout Sunforge as the environmental carrot. Widen the road but mitigate emissions locally. Word leaked faster than molasses in August heat. I didn't leak it. Small towns simply run on coffee chatter. On a Saturday morning, I was stacking square bales when Stan pedaled up on his bicycle, face red. "Wally's calling an emergency HOA meeting," he puffed. "Says you're conspiring with the county to ruin property values." I wiped sweat with my sleeve. "Ruin property values? Solar's clean. Panels are low profile. And the array sits on my side, not theirs." Stan shrugged. Truth never slows rumor. That night, Cypress Glade's clubhouse brimmed with folding chairs. I didn't have to attend. I'm not a member. But I did, mostly for entertainment. I sat in the back with Diesel curled at my boots. Loretta conspicuously avoided me. The restraining order still made her maintain distance. Wally limped to the podium, neck brace swapped for an arm sling this week. His injuries migrated suspiciously. He launched into a sermon about neighborhood unity under attack from commercial intrusion. He waved aerial renderings of glittering solar panels chewing up our pastoral vistas. He claimed the array would emit dangerous electromagnetic waves, a phrase that would have made Violet snort coffee through her nose. Then he pivoted to the county road plan, painting doomsday pictures of 18-wheelers barreling past front porches. I waited until he paused for questions. My hand rose before I convinced myself to stay silent. The room hushed. "First," I said, "the panels won't even be visible once the privacy fence goes up. Second, Sunforge plans a pollinator habitat under the array, bee-friendly flowers instead of dormant dirt. Third, an access-controlled gate means no more shortcut temptation. Sounds like a win-win." Murmurs rippled. A young dad in a baseball cap stood. "I'd rather see solar than more cars idling at the subdivision exit," he said. "My kids breathe that exhaust." Loretta shot him a laser stare. Wally shuffled papers. "This is private association business," he barked. "Which affects public neighbors," I countered, "and county planners." I gestured toward the door where, right on cue, Commissioner Alvarez slipped inside, notebook in hand. She nodded at me. Violet's doing, no doubt. The meeting dissolved into squabbling. Rule-obsessed residents demanded clarification on covenant language about adjacent industrial installations. Parents asked about school zone safety on the existing road. Someone brought up the HOA dues increase to cover Wally's legal fees. Apparently, the board had voted to reimburse his bail as a business expense. That revelation detonated like a fireworks stand. People shouted, babies cried, someone accidentally hit the lights, I slipped out with diesel before pitchforks appeared. 2 evenings later came the county hearing. The courthouse auditorium buzzed. Farmers, subdivision folks, reporters from the weekly paper, a few environmental watchdogs. Commissioner Alvarez opened with budgets and traffic studies. Then Violet clicked through slides illustrating carbon offsets. Each megawatt of solar power equals taking 300 cars off the road per year. She framed SunForge as a community partnership, highlighting local construction jobs and a scholarship fund for the high school FFA chapter. When public comment opened, Wally waddled to the microphone in his sling, voice syrupy. Solar arrays leach toxic chemicals into groundwater, he declared. Violet calmly corrected him, citing peer-reviewed studies and offering to share them. Then Loretta stepped up. She read from a crumpled sheet accusing me of vendetta behavior and calling the restraining order exaggerated. The judge's order sat in my folder, clear as daylight. Audience members whispered as she spoke, remembering her arrest. I kept a poker face until a man I'd never met, owner of the local hardware store, strode forward. I live 2 valleys over, he said. We host SunForge on 40 acres. It's quiet, brings tax revenue, and my bees love the clover they plant. He planted a seed of credibility that sprouted instantly. When the dust settled, the commissioners voted unanimously, approve the wider road, contingent on acquiring easement cooperation, and greenlight the solar project. The mood split along lines of gratitude and sour grapes. I drove home under a silver slice of moon, windows down. The gate on my lane gleamed, freshly painted safety yellow for visibility. The padlock was intact. A small victory, but the war wasn't done. Within a month, heavy equipment crawled onto my pasture. Crews sank posts, ran conduit, and raised steel racks that looked like rows of bleachers waiting for a cosmic football game. Diesel barked at backhoes, but soon got bored and napped in sawdust piles. SunForge erected a 7-foot cedar fence topped with grapevine lattice along the property line. My idea, because if you're going to build a wall, make it grow something edible. Violet approved. The gate at the lane's mouth became a keypad lift arm with license plate recognition. Only SunForge trucks and my vehicles were whitelisted. Emergency services had override codes. There was no longer any excuse, none, for HOA traffic to slip through. Predictably, excuses still came. Stan told me Cypress Glade's Facebook page morphed into a conspiracy forum. Solar death rays, property value Armageddon, and my alleged secret profit kickbacks to county officials. I ignored it. Local banks don't cash gossip, but the gossip had teeth. I visited town one afternoon and returned to find graffiti sprayed across the fence. Farmer Trader in neon orange. Diesel sniffed, whined. I called the sheriff. Deputies took photos, but without cameras facing the subdivision side, suspects were guesses. Violet didn't blink. We'll restain the boards, she said, and add motion lights. She dispatched a team next morning. The graffiti vanished beneath fresh cedar tone. Automatic LEDs went up, triggered by sound as well as motion. Bird-friendly spectrum that wouldn't confuse migrations. That seemed to chill the trouble until winter solstice approached. The county scheduled groundbreaking for the road expansion in early December, intending to complete major grading before spring rains. To finalize, they needed right-of-way signatures from 5 Cypress Glade homes whose yards edged the existing road. 4 signed after minor haggling. The holdout? Wally, of course. He launched another petition, Save Our Streets, painting the road as 4-lane doom. But his neighbors, facing special assessments if delays ballooned the county budget, grew cranky. HOA dues had already spiked, lawyers' bills stacking like hay bales. Some residents began eyeing recall procedures. Meanwhile, my solar rent checks landed like clockwork. I used the first deposit to replace aging barn siding and install geothermal heating in the house. No more monstrous winter propane bills. At the feed store, locals asked advice on leasing to solar companies. A tide was turning and Wally sensed it. Desperation breeds recklessness. One frosty Tuesday at dawn, the gate's alarm pinged my phone. I pulled on boots, grabbed a flashlight, and jogged down the lane. In the beam, I saw smoke curling from the edge of the panel field. Diesel sprinted ahead, barking. As I got closer, the sick smell hit, burning plastic. Someone had splashed an accelerant on the outermost panel row and lit it. The fire suppression system, Sunforge had insisted on one, activated, dousing flames, but a few modules cracked and sagged. Sheriff deputies arrived fast. Infrared on the lane camera captured a figure in a hood tossing what looked like a flare over the fence. The vehicle, pearl white crossover, plates obscured by mud but silhouette unmistakable. Loretta was still under restraining order, but sabotage crosses from contempt to felony arson. Deputy Givens chugged coffee from a thermos, eyes red. "We'll pull automatic plate readers on county roads," he said, "and security footage at subdivision gates, if they had cameras." "Oh, they do," I said. HOA rules. Every vehicle entering Cypress Glade passes a motion cam mounted beside the gatehouse. The board installed it to catch loiterers. Irony thrives in suburbia. A search warrant followed, swift as January wind. Loretta's garage yielded a gas can and flares. Her computer showed late-night searches, how to disable solar panels, and video no fingerprints on metal. Not exactly subtle, she was booked that afternoon again. The district attorney didn't play. Arson of an energy facility is a big deal. Federal statutes kick harder than county ordinances. Loretta faced potential prison, not fines. At arraignment, the judge denied bail due to prior restraining order violation. The mugshot hit local news, neck pillow flattened, mascara streaked. Cypress Glade finally realized its HOA board was burning money and goodwill. So the homeowners booted President Wally and his clique by a 42-3 recall. The new interim head, Aaron, a mild-mannered school librarian, came to my porch with real remorse and peach sweet tea. She admitted dues had spiked, insurance had tripled, and everyone was tired of lawsuits. Her one request: open my farm lane only when trains blocked the subdivision's lone exit. I agreed on a strictly written license, emergencies only, sheriff-controlled keypad, no personal cars. In return, they paid for a smarter gate and funded wildflower seeding along my fence. The county staged a safety fair. Sunforge poured hot cocoa from solar power, and the press called it a win for common sense. Wally, meanwhile, tried ducking a negligence suit by filing bankruptcy and blaming bad maps from the farmer. Our email trail showed he'd ignored every warning before cutting my lock, so the court slapped a lien on his house. He sold and slunk to Florida, where rumor says retired HOA warriors find new turf. Loretta, the serial trespasser, pled to felony vandalism, served 9 months, and now plants trees for court-ordered community service. With the circus over, I got back to barley and horses. Diesel collected ear scratches at the county fair, and Sunforge's panels came online, humming money into my account every quarter. The widened county road shaved 5 minutes off the drive to town, making my lane obsolete for shortcuts, exactly as nature intended. Then another weed popped up. A courier delivered a glossy packet from Meridian Crest Development Group offering a fat check for my entire farm so they could build a mixed-use lifestyle enclave with boutiques and inevitably a brand new HOA. I mailed a curt "not for sale." 2 days later, their regional director, Rex, snakeskin boots, teeth like LED headlights, appeared uninvited. When flattery failed, anonymous complaints started. Alleged fence violations, imaginary chemical runoff. Inspectors shrugged. Everything was legal. Meridian Crest kept pushing. One steamy May night, a rifle round blew out the solar transformer, lighting the gravel like arc welding. Deputies found shell casings on the county shoulder. Sunforge's manager discovered a hidden GPS tracker tied to Rex's fleet vehicle, and wildlife camera flashes caught his truck idling at 1:12 a.m. A judge forced the company to hand over GPS logs. Same spot, same minute. Rex was arrested mid-steakhouse entree for felony interference with critical infrastructure. Meridian Crest called him a rogue employee, froze the buyout offers, then pivoted to claim my solar lease violated zoning, forgetting the county had updated the code last year to encourage agrivoltaics. That challenge died in a single afternoon. I wanted permanent armor, so with my lawyer Raj and Heartland Prairie Trust, I drafted a conservation easement. The land stays a farm, solar, bees, and all, forever. We signed under the old pecan, cameras clicking while Diesel grinned like he understood generational security clauses. Not long after, Meridian Crest's investors fled, bankruptcy followed, and Rex eventually pled guilty. earning a year in state khakis and a restitution schedule that will fund local volunteer firefighters for decades. The farm thrived. I spun a new LLC, Barley Moon Agri Experiences, so tour buses could wander pollinator corridors, taste honey under the panels, and pick pumpkins by the pond. Extra cash paid off my geothermal upgrade early. Cypress Glade repaved its streets with settlement money from Wally, added a bylaw requiring homeowner votes before any board lawsuit, and handed me a Community Partner of the Year certificate. At the county fair, I spotted Loretta in a safety vest, dutifully bagging kettle corn wrappers. Humility in action. Today, the panels glitter at sunrise, frogs lounge on lily pads in their reflected warmth, and the lane stays quiet except for maintenance trucks and deer. The landline rarely rings, but if 4:13 a.m. ever lights up again, the machine can take it. Diesel and I have earned our sleep. My farm held its ground, grew a little solar forest, and taught 3 different enemies, from petty HOA bullies to slick developers, that some borders are better respected, some farmers don't scare, and some roots run too deep to dig up. Friends, thank you. See you soon.